Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is our Hardy Cognac dinner. We're excited to have you here. We're going to start with some mixed drinks from our resident mixologist, Jason Holstein. He's going to mix up Sidecar in this sour glass, and he's going to mix up a Cognac Manhattan in this double old-fashioned glass. And I don't know if you've made a Cognac mixed drink recently, but I think you'll be in for a special treat.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's start with the Sidecar cocktail. We're going to go ahead and make a homemade sour mix. So start with a lemon. Use a mixing glass. We're going to use the entire lemon for this cocktail. Now the other part of the sour mix is the simple syrup. Let's go ahead and use a whole ounce of simple syrup because we use the whole lemon. Okay. I'm going to use Cointreau liqueur. This is a very fancy triple sec. I'm going to pour a ½ ounce of the Cointreau. All right. And we're using Hardy's VS Cognac for the Sidecar. Let's go with an ounce and then a half. I'm going to stir this cocktail for about 15-20 seconds. Get it nice and cold. All right. We're going to use a Riedel sour glass. You can actually use a little bit of the simple syrup around the rim here. And we're going to use some powdered sugar around the top of the rim. And we are going to do an orange twist as a garnish. And there you are, Sidecar. Okay, let's go ahead and make a Hardy Manhattan on the rocks. We're going to use the Hardy VSOP, Angostura cocoa, and orange bitters, along with Carpano Antica Formula Vermouth. It's my favorite vermouth. Start out with some ice. Let's use our bitters first. A few dashes of the cocoa, a few dashes of the orange. We're going to do 1 part or 1 ounce of the Carpano Antica Formula Vermouth. And we're going to do 2 parts of the Hardy VSOP. 1, 2. It's a stirred cocktail. I'm going to stir this cocktail for about 15 to 20 seconds. We're going to use a Riedel glass, as I said before. Going to use an Amarino cherry as a garnish. And there is our Hardy VSOP Manhattan on the rocks.
Jason, thank you. What a great Cognac Manhattan. Makes me think to ask for cognac in a Manhattan. Let's take a look at the Hardy home, the Hardy house with Benedicte Hardy, all the way in Cognac, France.
So welcome to the Hardy house. It is my pleasure to be your host this afternoon or tonight, wherever you're going to see this video. Unfortunately, I cannot be with you all tonight or today, but believe me, it has been something that is very dear to my heart, is to show you our family house and where it all started. Well, now that you have entered the Hardy house, it is time for you to discover what is cognac, what is Hardy, and then we'll go through the tastings.
Benedicte, thank you. And we're hours and an ocean apart, but thanks for being here tonight or a little bit later where you are. And why don't you tell us a little bit about the history of cognac and where your family, where the Hardy family comes into the picture?
Well, my great-great-grandfather started his business in 1863. As an Englishman, becoming French very quickly, Anthony Hardy became Antoine Hardy and fell in love with the Cognac region. And very soon, when he thought that he knew enough about this business, he became an entrepreneur. To be an entrepreneur in the Cognac region means you have to capitalize on stocks. You have to age products. You cannot decide one day, oh, I'm going to be selling cognac and that's it. It's not easy. It brings you a lot of respect for the people, our ancestors, for all cognac houses that have been aging most of the time for years, if not centuries, products that are now making the fame of each of these houses. Of course, you're very familiar with the very famous ones, the Hennessy of the world, Remy Martin, Courvoisier, Martel. Mainly these four houses produce and sell 90% of the cognac business. But you have a full array of other houses, smaller in size, but not in quality, and they are the ones that Hardy belong to. So my pleasure now is to start the tasting with you so you can understand better where we're coming from. Because 5 generations later, I am the one in charge of promoting Hardy and being the ambassador of the brand. Today,
And Benedict, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but just to ask, I think there's a little bit of a lag here, but just to ask, cognac is, or is it a brandy that's only produced in Cognac? Is that how you would describe it?
for your information, cognac is distilled twice and can only be called cognac, which is the name of the city that gave the name to the brandy, eau de vie that are produced exclusively in an area that is strictly delimited.
And for the proofs, is this a full proof? What proof is Cognac?
So you're talking about an 80 proof product. This is what cognac is all about. You can find sometimes cognac that are full proof from directly from barrels, but most of the time, I would say more than 90% of the cognac that is sold and consumed in the world is at 80 proof, 40%.
Are there regions, are there appellations of Cognac?
The Cognac region is divided in 6 sub-districts. At Hardy, we exclusively use 4 that we consider the best: Grande Champagne, Petite Champagne, Borderie, and Fin-Bois. Those 4 regions are carefully aged separately in our cellars and then blended. This is what we have in this blend. That means our blender selects, before he makes the blend, the product that he thinks are ready to be blended. So, as we say, it is an assemblage, a blend, and it's just a way of showing the quality of the product.
My first experience with Cognac was 20 years ago, and maybe I'm dating myself. I'm not that old. I'm 43, but 20 years ago was my first experience with Cognac, having it after a nice steak dinner in a snifter. And tonight we're having them in these nice Cognac glasses. What do you say? How do you have it in Cognac? What's the proper glass?
Of course, when you are not familiar with Cognac, this is the proper glass also. For many, many years, we have promoted the big snifters, and in my opinion, and I don't think I'm the only one thinking that, snifters are not the proper glass. They're cute glasses, they're beautiful. Everybody calls them the brandy glasses. But Cognac is a refined product, and if you don't have this kind of shape of glass, you're missing some of the flavors. So, cheers to VS Cognac.
Benedict, we have a special guest here. It's my brother's dog. This is Candy Butterscotch. She's my brother's dog. She's soon going back to Birmingham, Michigan, so I'll miss her. But when we're talking about Cognac, and not just the regions, but I see on the label a fine Cognac or a fine Champagne or a Grand Champagne. Tell me about the grades of Cognac.
Well, fine champagne means that we only use the two best cru of the Cognac area, Grand Champagne and Petit Champagne. And in order to be called fine champagne or fine champagne, whatever pronunciation you like, it means that at least 50% of the blend has to be coming from the Grand Champagne region, which is considered the first growth of the Cognac region. So this VSOP, 8 years. The blend, fine champagne. And if we say champagne, which sometimes can be a little disturbing, particularly for the ladies around this table that love the champagne, the bubbly sparkling, it is only because champagne and champagne, whatever way you say it, we share with the Champagne region in Reims and Épernay the same soil as we have here. And these two regions are full limestone. I mean, it's chalky, limey, and except vineyards, nothing grows very easily. Vines are very resilient. They can dig very deep to get their nourishment, which is not the case for corn or wheat. And if you travel, for instance, to Saint-Émilion, which is not so far away from here, go to Château l'Angélus, or go to Château l'Évangile, and you will see, l'Angélus particularly, how deep the root can go for vine. They even dig through limestone, and you don't think that they would get anywhere, but they're very resilient, like we are in the Cognac region.
Well, that resilience reminds me of the next question. I'm going to pour a little bit of this 1863. Of course, we've had the VS and the VSOP and the cocktails. So maybe, if you could, just talk about that perseverance. I mean, some of this in Cognac, some of this product that you're taking from grapes and you're fermenting in barrels, isn't going to see the light of day or isn't going to see the market for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Talk about that resilience, that perseverance a bit, if you can.
Because what were we looking for? We were looking for coffee flavors, mocha, cappuccino, roasted nuts, a little more pronounced even than the one in VSOP. And with Legend, it is something that our blender, it is a spectacular example of when you have a will, there is a way. And his will was really in agreement with us to have a product that would please the most discerning connoisseurs because it has this coffee flavor which is immediate on the palate and on the aftertaste. The color is, as you can see, a little darker than the others. The product is a blend of eau de vie that has been aged between 4 for the youngest to 12 for the oldest. In that blend, we use Grand Champagne, Borderie, and Framboise. So this is something that we are really pleased to promote. It is one of a kind, and we do marvelous cocktails with this product. This is something that many bartenders favor over the regular line. So cheers to Legend.
Okay, so the XO. Again, my first experience with Cognac, albeit in a snifter glass, was with an XO Cognac 20 years ago. So in my very novice approach to Cognac, I think it means aged at least 10 years. Benedicte, if you could please explain the XO, the Hardy XO, the XO Rare.
Then, in the legal appellation Cognac, there is one famous called XO. XO, which can be translated by extra old today. But it meant something different at the beginning. It is clear that the genuine XO, the first one, the name came from one of the Fiu, one of the family that has been blending for Hennessy for many, many years. XO is, I would say, the marketing name that everybody remembers. It means that the cognac has to be aged 10 years. But the real story of XO means that a lot of these blenders, these master sellers, the cellar masters, who have an amazing array of barrels aging around them, select what they could consider best for these reserves. Most XOs, for the big names and the smaller houses, are aged longer than 10 years. And Hardy is no exception. This XO that you have in front of you, called XO Rare, is aged for 20 years. It's a particular pride and joy. This is sometimes what I call the beginner's cognac, because for people that have never tried a cognac before, there is so much refinement and elegance in this one, and it is so easy to enjoy. It is made the same way, with the same quality of blend that we did for the VSOP, Fine Champagne. So this cognac is also a Fine Champagne. 55% Grand Champagne in the blend and 45% Petit Champagne. The nose now is not on the flowery side, it is on the fruit side. This is when the fruit in the vine, this is when the fruit in the orchards are becoming to be ripe and ready to be picked. And this is what you get in the XO. Light tobacco notes also on the nose, and a wonderful elegance. So cheers to the XO Rare.
So now we get into, I guess at least on the wine side, what they call the reserves. You know, again, my experience with Cognac has always been VS Very Special or VSOP or XO. And now we're into the reserves. And I like this one a lot because this, I think you folks have it branded as almost like the silver anniversary, right? The 25 year. And then you have the gold as well, the 50 year. My wife and I have been married 17 years. Well, it will be 17 years in December. And so we only have a few more years to go for this one, this silver. So tell me a little bit how you do it at Hardy, and I guess how you're presenting your reserve cognacs.
I was mentioning to you that my ancestors, my father and my uncle, in the 60s, decided to use the wedding anniversary series to indicate the age of the blends that they were using in those cognacs. So it became a tradition in the family, in the company, to use these wedding anniversaries to designate the age of the product. Noces d'argent can be translated by silver anniversary, which is quite popular in your country like it is in mine. 25 years, it's easily approachable and attainable. But in cognac, it requires now to be patient for 25 years. So like the XO I was telling you about, Noces d'argent is a blend of Grande and Petit Champagne, still in the fruit age, but even more ripe, like more like prune than it would be like figs. Okay, so this beautiful Noce d'Argent, when we relaunched it and repackaged it, which was 2015, was sent to my friend Paul Pacult, and you might know of him. He writes for the Spirit Journal, and he's someone that has an amazing palate and taste for spirits. And not many people write on spirits. At least he has been doing that before anybody took a liking in this field. So Paul Pacult sent me a very nice note saying, this is the best cognac I've had all year. And we're extremely proud of this product. 25 years is a long time to wait, but at the same time, the result was worth the wait. So there is a gap between the XO that I was telling you I love so much and the Noce d'Argent. Of course I love Noce d'Argent. I mean, who wouldn't? It is very elegant. It is, again, elegance being really one of the key words to designate the Hardy line. But at the same time, it is full of ripe fruit, particularly prunes, as I was telling you. So on the nose, you can feel the tobacco. You can smell the beauty of the caramel coming from the oak. The vanilla is a little stronger than on the other four, and this is what you get in aging longer in Limousin oak. So cheers to Noce d'Argent.
So I've actually poured myself a little bit of the gold, the 50-year-old Cognac gold, and if you could, tell me a bit more about that. I think what I'm hearing you say, when I nose it, I do get that little more richness in that caramel, but please.
Strangely enough, it was the first one that my uncle, Francis, who also was the mayor of Cognac for 20 years, and he was our nose, or blender, put together in 1961. Noce d'Or is really an amazing ceremony when you have a couple that reach the 50 years of marriage. So we decided, and it was decided much before me, that this cognac needed to be exceptional. What does it mean, Noce d'Or, for Hardy? It means an exceptional quality of 50 years of aging for different eau de vie, again, aged side by side, only from Grand Champagne region. And this cognac has won so many awards, like Best in Show in many, many competitions, platinum medal at the Chicago Beverage Institute. I can name hundreds of times where this product has been really selected, among many others. What makes these products also stand out is that for that quality, the price remains reasonable. But let's go back to the quality. Now you're talking really the age of spices and of tangerine, marmalade, cloves, cinnamon, even more than you have in the 30 years of aging. So cheers to the Noce d'Or. If you do that with your glasses, you'll see the legs of the product. And it shows very distinctively that this product has an amazing quality. The finish lasts a very long time. You feel like your palate is coated with these amazing flavors. And this is what we are really looking for in an old cognac. Then we jump to what we call the age of spices. What happened here is that this Noce de Perle, which means pearl anniversary, which means 30 years of marriage, we have been decided at a very early time that we would only use, after 30 years of aging, only Grand Champagne cognacs. So in that blend, you have at least 20 different eau de vie that has been put aside by our blender and then married at one stage and aged side by side and married together. we decided to package it in a crystal decanter. That doesn't help the price, but it certainly helped the look. It is an amazing product. Strangely enough, this is the favorite of our blender. Not mine, even though I am extremely moved by the finesse of the eau de vie. I like even younger and older, it is still a beautiful product. Noce de Perle is one of a kind. And only today we had 3 customers calling to get one, because when you have tasted this product, it's something you will remember. So Grand Champagne has something very distinctive, evidently when you go to the age of spices. It is this lingering finish of cinnamon, cloves that really evolves on your palate. And the blend with the caramel, the smell, I mean, it makes a wonderful, harmonious combination. So cheers to Noce de Perle. Even a little citrus when you have it on the palate. Something so elegant that you will always remember this product. Pearl.
Well, thank you. This is for me. This pearl really caps off the night. Quite fantastic. Quite the cognac journey for me, from having an XO 20 years ago and learning about VS or VSOP, and now how you have explained the aged cognacs that you presented to us. So thank you so much. And I think if you can, you have your collection to show us. I mean, of course, the collection that we have here tonight, folks can purchase from us, from Caffe Gelato. You can call the restaurant or email or even send me a text, and we'll get you these bottles. But you have a collection, Benedict, you have a collection at your home that's pretty finite. I mean, less than a few hundred bottles left in the world. Show us what you have.
Before we part ways, I just wanted to give you a note of what Hardy is and what we're so proud of. In 1981, my father was contacted by American importers, and we created the most expensive cognac money could buy at the time. It was resold for $3,700 in 1981. Part of the collection is here in front of you. This is called Perfection, the Element series. Today we only carry this one, and it's going to be very soon extended, but it will expire. I mean, but it was the cognac that my great-great-grandfather, Armand Hardy, put aside when he started the company. Grand Champagne, pre-phylloxera, which is the disease that devastated the vineyards in Europe at the end of the 19th century. So this cognac was distilled, never blended, never touched by distilled water to reduce the volume to 40%. It naturally came down after 100 years in oak in 1966. When my father removed it, it was at 41%. It is still at 41%. So you have the elements: water, air, earth, fire, and light. And this is what the first step that we did when we decided to bottle and package luxury products. But today, our pride and joy is our collaboration with Lalique. We are extremely fortunate to have created, with this wonderful crystal house, a collection called the Four Seasons. Spring was released in 2013. 2 years later, Été, which is summer, autumn, and then very recently, Hiver, winter. So again, those cognacs are extremely rare, only 400 units for the world. Collectible, of course, but wonderful to drink. And my grandfather, Armand, who is the one that put this cognac together and aside, came back unharmed from the First World War and started his collection in 1919. So the youngest in the blends of this product is 1919, and the oldest 1919, and the youngest, 1940, when the Germans invaded Cognac. So it is full of history and full of meaning for my family history. Only 400 units made for the world, available, of course, upon request, special order, as you can imagine.
Benedict, thank you. Thank you for the time. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. So we're gonna get into these glasses. You mentioned having this type of glass, this shape of glass, and not a snifter glass. So we have Julio from Riedel, to talk to us tonight about this particular glass, this Cognac glass. So I've always called these tulip glasses. I got a couple for my wedding. I don't drink a lot of Cognac. I'm looking forward to today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you once more for allowing us to be here tonight. Again, Riedel Crystal. By the way, that's how you pronounce it, Riedel, not Riedel. We're known as a wine glass company, but we also have some spirits glassware, and of course, this is one of them. It's actually a Cognac glass, and you mentioned tulip. The tulip shape actually is very unique. As you can be aware, Riedel produces glassware that, depending on the characteristic of the grape, the juice, we definitely wanted to hit it onto the palate. So of course, when we produced this glass, I want to say over 30 years ago with some of our great Cognac partners, we actually created this specific shape because you notice when you take a sip from this glass, as opposed to hitting you on the tip of the tongue, it actually hits you just behind the tip of the tongue, where we want the spirit to flourish, in a way of speaking.
Start with the 1863. The VS and the VSOP are from 4 out of the 5 Cognac regions. So it's a little bit like wine.
Correct.
So if you get a California wine, it's good. If you get a wine that's from Napa, maybe it's a little more intense. If you get a wine that's from a single vineyard in Napa, maybe it's even better. So it's the same way with Cognac. So you have here VS, VSOP, 4 out of the 5 regions. The 1863, which let's pour now, 3 out of the 5 Cognac regions, and then we'll get up to the fiends, the fine cognacs, and then the grand champagne of cognacs to finish.
Absolutely.
All right, so this is 1863. Wow, okay. In a very nice glass.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, cheers. Thank you
Cheers.
once more for
Thank
allowing
you.
Riedel to be here tonight with Caffe Gelato and, of course, Hardy. Very quickly, let's go ahead and nose this beautiful beverage. And once again, I think what we always talk about, the misconception about nosing a cognac or a high-proof spirit is that you're always going to get alcohol, but quite the opposite here.
Well, I have to interject for a second. You know, I'm used to having the cognacs in these snifters.
Correct, yeah.
You know, I remember being a young, just starting the restaurant, going out to these dinners and having a cognac after dinner, and they bring you a snifter, and all you get is that high intense alcohol.
Yeah, and then think about all those movies that we're all accustomed to, where they actually put a little candle underneath to warm it up and bring it out even more alcohol. Definitely not what Riedel envisioned when we created this glass, probably over 30 years ago. And you notice again when we nose the beverage, it's actually a very pleasant nose. You definitely get some of that oak. I definitely got a bit of a zesty kind of lemon nose for me. But more importantly, when you taste, you notice that you're actually going to hit right behind the tip of the tongue. And it's actually going to be a really smooth beverage, not that burning sensation that we would get out of perhaps one of these big snifters.
Much smoother than I thought. And I'm going to remember to not drink all of it. I'm going to save it for the next. Even though we're in the sitting room, I'm going to have it here. If we move into the XO, now that 1863 blends up to 12-year-old Cognac. So they'll start with maybe 3-year-old Cognac, go up to 12s. XO by French law or Cognac law or, I guess rules, has to be at least 10 years, but my understanding is with Hardy, it's at least 20.
Very nice. All right, well, let's
So,
go ahead and...
This is the XO Rare.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Of course. And as always, just like a nice bottle of wine, we always want to nose it, right? It's like meeting a person for the first time on the nose. And you definitely get a bit much more intense here, for sure, than the first one that we just enjoyed. Much more of an orange nose for me, or orange zest, rather than a lemon zest that I personally had in the first one. But once again, very light.
I'm still getting very smooth, I was going to say. Very approachable.
Right, it's not like that punch you in the nose alcohol for sure, but here, again, some of the very beautiful subtle notes. And for sure, some of that oak aging, kind of like a honey, kind of like a tea note for me personally.
I have to make a joke. I mean, with working a lot, I don't always get to have, let alone wine, but cognac when, right? So it's like if you're out with dinner with buddies, and this gives me a reason to have cognac more often.
Right, if you have the right glass.
I think maybe the right cognac and the right.
Exactly. You don't want to have a bad combination.
But but not only that, just the idea that, hey, this is good. This is really is fun. And we were having this dinner tonight, and I'm getting calls earlier in the week saying, well, my wife might just want wine. I'm like, sure, yeah, but I have to say, if you've decided to go that direction and only get the wine, give it a taste. It's wow.
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And again, once you focus on how the glass performs right behind the tip of the tongue, not that explosive alcohol note that we would expect, but just very pleasant, very smooth. You don't have a burning esophagus, which is a very important note to really think about.
Well, I want to say that. I mean, we're drinking this, live here, and it's not that. It's really, really refreshing. It's very nice.
Yeah, and I can only imagine how great it's going to pair with the food, for sure.
That's right.
More importantly.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to get into the fiends. In French, fiend, or in English, fine, cognac. So let's see.
I think we're going with this guy next.
That's right.
The Note d'Argent. Perhaps my French
I would say Noches d'Argent.
Noches d'Argent might be a little bit more Latino.
I suppose our Spanish is better, but I think it's Noches
d'Argent. How's that?
Hopefully that's okay. We'll have to ask our French speakers how to do it just right.
And trust me, by the fourth and fifth tasting tonight, things might get a little bit more complicated. As you can see, where I overpoured your glass a little bit more than mine.
Thank you.
Of course. All right. Minimum 25 years here. Fine champagne.
Up to as much as 35 years, I think. But I do know that that's the silver 25-year, almost like your 25th anniversary. To commemorate it, be a good present for a 25-year anniversary.
Absolutely. If you can.
How many years I'm coming up on? Let me think. 2004. Am I supposed to know my anniversary? I think.
This is why we have the calendars.
2004. We're in 2021.
17 years?
So I'm coming up on 17 years. How about you?
Going to 13.
13.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a little bit ways to go.
So I only have 8 more years to go to get a bottle of this.
That's right.
This silver.
You can save up for it.
That's what I should do. I mean, luckily we get some of these bottles wholesale. I wonder what they retail for. My God, they're probably expensive.
And you need the right glasses.
That's right.
But once again, on the nose, I mean, I get more of a perfume note for me personally. And again, from the first cognac that we just enjoyed, it just progresses on the nose for sure. And for me, this is a bit more on the lighter note than the second one that we just enjoyed.
I was going to say, this is very smooth.
But again, thinking about what we're accustomed to with spirits or even wine, where you have some of that intensity, this is quite the opposite here. You have to really dig deep here and put your noses in this glass to get those beautiful aromas. And this is what forces these great aromas to come out and get your senses going for sure. Yeah,
I was thinking, I was looking at the the Riedel Mozart, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart decanters, and I think they're so cool. So we're thinking about adding those to our wine room experience. And as we're putting air in this and tasting these cognacs, I'm wondering if you ever decant them.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but I can only imagine, just like any beverage and wine world specific. This is wine at the end of the day, right? It's just obviously a very different method.
Well, and let's pause for a second there. So this is all grape fermentation, so essentially wine, whereas, for example, a bourbon is corn and rye, different fermentation. Vodka's potatoes. So this is a wine. This is all grapes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to go back to your point, I don't know the answer to it, but I can only imagine thinking of wine specific. We love to aerate wine, and that Amadeo decanter is a perfect decanter for very young wines. So in this world, this is a very young beverage, in a way speaking. So for sure, it could, I would imagine, take advantage of it 100%.
We decided to pair this tonight. I don't know if you're getting the same way I did, but when we tasted through these with our chef to do the pairings, this is so smooth. That's why we went with the Cognac lobster.
Right.
And you and I are talking, and it's like, who drinks Cognac with lobster? Who eats Cognac lobster? And I imagine in Cognac they do that. I think we'll have to ask.
I hope so.
We'll have to ask the folks at Hardy if that's the truth. But we were trying to do an Adriatic menu, a Cognac menu, and we came up with Cognac lobster to pair with this 25-year Cognac.
Yeah, so don't go too crazy, because I can only imagine, of course, the cognac is going to be reduced. All you're going to get is basically the fruit behind it, in a way speaking. But what we just experienced in this glass, I can only imagine the aromas.
Yeah.
And then the taste explosion that's going to happen on your palate. It's going to be pretty up there. Definitely a one-of-a-kind experience.
Yeah, I think what I like with Riedel, and at least for me, is tasting the wines with our food pairings. And I think these glasses allow you to do it. I just, I keep going back to when I'm young. I'm starting the restaurant. And I'm trying to learn about wines and different beverages, including cognacs. And I'm tasting it in the Sniffner, and it's, boy, I wish I had this experience back when I was getting started.
As we all know, we learn as we
right.
grow,
That's right.
And our palate also changes as we grow.
Yeah.
So this is definitely an opportunity for, personally, just as you, I don't drink cognac, especially some of these high-end cognacs, but what a very different and pleasant experience than the traditional beer and wine experience that we're accustomed to. So very, very interesting for sure.
I'd like to taste the Grand Champagne. We have two more. So we have, is this the d'Or? Noches d'Or, right?
So we have the Noches d'Argent.
Right.
So this is Noches d'Or, so obviously it must mean gold, for
That's
sure,
right.
yes?
Sure,
So
yeah.
gold is now 50 years, if I'm not mistaken?
I think so. I think a minimum of 50.
50 years.
Whereas the silver label is
It's
a minimum of 25. So remember,
yeah.
I'm getting that one.
Yeah, so think about
in
your
8
marriage,
years.
for sure,
That's
okay?
right.
There you go, 17 years. You have a few more to go.
Yeah.
All right.
You have kids too, right?
Absolutely.
So
3.
I have 3. You have 3?
Yes.
So mine are
Half a soccer team.
3, 5, and 7. Yours?
3, 7, and 10.
So you're 3 ahead.
Yeah. I started a little younger, I think.
How is it a 10? Is it better?
No.
Okay.
Unlike beverages where it progresses, no, it's quite the opposite.
So the sweet spot is
5, I would say.
5.
Yeah.
They could dress themselves, but they can't get into too much trouble.
Yeah, and they're also not speaking too much, especially these days where they're stuck at home a little bit more.
Cheers. Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Yeah. It's like, for all of us who have kids at home doing this online learning, I think that this is a good moment to have a cognac dinner.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Hopefully the kids are not home, by the way. Wow. So again, from the first to now the fourth, the nose, once again, just it's the evolution, in a way speaking. And you always wonder, well, what makes this more expensive than that? As we talked about earlier, Napa, or you talked about California, possibly a great wine. Napa, probably
single
better.
vineyard, less shoots, more concentrated.
Right. Or the better vineyard, in a way of speaking, right?
Sure.
And here, once again, on the nose, and on the palate,
I have to learn more about cognac. Geographically, I'm thinking to myself, how many hectares? You look at it. It's like on the internet, it's like hectacres. I'm like, oh, what is that in an acre? But I wonder, size-wise, because when they get down to okay, this is from one of
Block, in a way
one of
speaking.
the finest cognac
Sure.
grapes.
Yeah. Again, just as wine, in a way speaking, it's the same exact idea. But again, on the nose, what a pleasant nose. And I always like to say, and again, I'm a novice drinker when it comes to spirits.
Yeah.
But understanding how wine works in a way of speaking and what hits me personally, what gets my senses going, I like what I'm nosing tonight. As far
I
as
feel the same
what
way.
you're expecting.
I mean, I don't know if I feel it just it was so pleasant for me approaching this dinner and learning about Hardy and having cognacs again, because in my mind I had my experience with cognac 20 years ago. It was fine. It was a great dinner. There were these.
You remembered it?
Well, there was, yeah. I mean, we were having wine. It was a steakhouse. It was folks from a distributor, and but again, if you ask me about the cognac, I'm thinking, boy, lots of alcohol on the front end.
Right.
Do I enjoy this? I mean, I enjoyed the company. It was fun.
Right.
But I enjoy this.
Absolutely.
I like this.
Absolutely. And we also have to remember, this is now Grand Champagne. So a much more finer sub-appellation, if I can use that word. I'm not sure. I would imagine so. And again, what do we say? Minimum 50 years. So I think, again, you can tell the quality from the first one to now the fourth one for sure.
With these barrels in France, my understanding is at least, they have them aging in cooler temperatures, underground. They can age longer. We hear about sometimes down in Kentucky, if they're aging bourbons, maxing out at 20 or 25 years because of the temperature and the heat. But in France, in that region, being underground and cool,
Sure.
they're getting the 50 and
Right.
older.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's 240 years in the making. I think 1683, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's how I got to that Saturn dinner. So, I had just opened the restaurant. They invited me for a tasting, and it's because, when one generation of the family passed away, they had to pay the estate taxes to keep the winery open. So they're taking some of those 1920 Saturns. I mean, they weren't bottled in 1920.
Right.
They were barreled in 1920. Right. They were putting them in bottles, and with that money, they were using to pay the estate tax to keep the winery open.
Not a bad way.
Okay, so let's try. Where are we at? Let's see. We have
So we've tried all these great ones, and
Yeah.
I believe there's only one remaining.
the Pearl. Noches de Pearl. So we just came from a 50-year. This is minimum of 30-year, although there is cognac as old as 60 years here. Nice crystal decanter. Really nice package. What do you? I have to, and I'll show you that
for
one
sure.
too.
I mean,
So that's pretty cool if you get it. I should have said this earlier. We were talking about being married, and for the 25-year, if you get this is a cool package too. Because of the pandemic, because of the permit, this one is special available tonight for $189. That one is super expensive, so I'll have to figure out how much it is. You can text me if you want it. But I want to taste it, and I think that's the purpose of these dinners. Sometimes. Buying a bottle seems a bit maybe extreme, but having a taste of it like we are tonight seems
look at the beautiful color already.
seems appropriate. Significantly darker, right?
And on the nose, I mean, again, that orange zest for me personally. Some caramel notes, and again, when we talk about, I always like to say, you don't have that overpowering alcohol note. You definitely get that secondary and tertiary aromas, which gets your senses going. What's next? And especially with the dessert that we're pairing this tonight with, it's
Princess donut, and for all intents and purposes, if you know, a profiterole in Italy, princess donut in France with a little bit of whipped cream. But certainly what you're saying, I mean, we were getting a little bit of that caramel, and we're going with dessert. And also, I mean, we're kind of progressing through the cognacs, frankly, right?
Of course.
So this is the most, I guess, the hardest to get that we have, the most exclusive. So we paired it last with a dessert.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and taste.
Really beautiful.
Quite nice. So we were talking about earlier about this beautiful crystal bottle.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when it finishes, you may want to replace the beverage inside. But you don't want to just replace it with any old beverage, right? And say this is the pearl.
Well, you can't. I mean,
Exactly. We certainly want to make sure that you keep it truthful.
you know, you certainly don't want to throw it away.
Right.
I mean, this is a crystal decanter. It's nice. But yeah, I mean, you fill it with the cognac and you say what it is. I mean, I have to tell you, I mean, I'm impressed by all these Hardys. This 25 year at $189, I think is the buy.
Quite nice. For sure.
In my opinion, out of the ones we tasted tonight.
Yeah, very beautiful packaging from our great friends in Cognac for sure. And I think as the evening progressed, we truly learned about Cognac. Maybe if you've never had Cognac before, this was certainly an amazing experience. And of course, with the food pairing that, of course, Caffe Gelato did tonight, I think it was sublime, 100%. And certainly something to think about the next time that you always think about food and wine, maybe food and Cognac.
Well, special thanks to Giovanni, our chef, Giovanni Valli. And I know for us, you know, some of what a restaurant, the day-to-day in a restaurant, it's a bit of a grind. I mean, like all of us with work, it's, you know, there's a certain amount of routine, and some of it's, I guess, as mundane as cleaning the ice machine. So for us, getting a chance to taste in your glasses and the Riedel glasses, getting a chance to learn about different specific vineyards around the world, and today to learn about Cognac is special, and it's something that Giovanni and I look forward to. We appreciate everyone for joining us tonight. If you want to buy some of them, we'd be happy to sell them because we have the permission to do it during this pandemic. For those of you who've joined us at home, thanks for doing it. It's super cool. Special thanks to Benedicte Hardy for joining us all the way from Cognac. That was very nice, and we appreciate it. So thanks, and Julio, thank you for joining.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure to be here. Again, being a novice, to be partnered with Caffe Gelato and this amazing food from this evening, and this great Cognac. It's a very nice treat. So. Thank you.
On these glasses, we will, you know, we can certainly help you get them, right? But if someone's at home, then they need them. Like they're having a dinner, they're going to get this Cognac. Boy, they're blown away. You always say, hey, you know, many retailers, but they Google it and they can.
Yeah, there's a lot of great online retailers. I think we're all accustomed to online purchases.
So people are shipping them now.
100%. Yeah, I think we're all accustomed to.
I'm always afraid that they're gonna they'll arrive safely in the mail.
Yeah, they're okay. And if not, you know who to contact.
Okay.
The person who sold it to you.
That's right. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. Cheers. Have a great evening. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.